Hi guys, my name is Christine and today I am discussing how to find your passion in under 20 minutes. And I have a few slides that we're going to go into to help you out, to see if we can help you find your passion in under 20 minutes. So in this video you will need a pen and paper to take notes, obviously if you want to. So let's get into the core points that I want to discuss in this video to help you find what your passion is. So let's get into my first point, which is where your passion is located. And I have a quote, which is quite a long quote, and it's by Viktor Frankl. I actually found this quote at the end of a book called Tribe of Mentors, which I have here, which you'll discover later on, spoiler alert, is one of the positive resources that I recommend that you get. Basically, that book also is just to give you a quick briefing on what that book is about. It's basically just a collection of interviews that Tim Ferriss did with, the best kind of like entrepreneurs, athletes in the world, big CEOs, really big names. And basically, it's just short life advice from those people. So I highly recommend that you get that. But anyway, on to this quote by Viktor Frankl. The quote goes like this: "Happiness must happen, and the same holds for success. You have to let it happen by not caring about it. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do, and go on to carry it out to the best of your knowledge. Then you will live to see that in the long run, I say, success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think about it." As someone who posts coaching videos to YouTube, sometimes I get very intense about the little details, like the keywords to use in my videos, things like that. And sometimes by doing that, I forget to actually just make videos on things that I'm actually passionate about. Instead, I'm focusing on keywords instead of things that I think will actually be useful. I've definitely fallen into the trap of thinking about the little details to get me to success, rather than focusing on, what I'm actually trying to do with my career and with my website and with the videos that I create. Let's go into where your passion is located. The exact location of where your passion is in the theater of your mind and the urges of your soul. So this is basically, the things that you picture in your mind, the things that you can see yourself doing. And also in those quiet urges, those little passion kind of bursts that you get when you are imagining these things, when you are diving into that imagination of yours and what you want to pursue. So the exact location of your passion is inside of you. So my next point is manipulate your passion. So for example, you can manipulate feelings of inspiration and feelings of passion. One of my favorite ways to do this is through music, and I give you an example here of some music. So manipulate your passion, listening to music such as Remember by Hans Zimmer from The Lion King. And in brackets here I've put, people don't allow themselves to feel these days, in my opinion. So basically what I mean by that is we're so focused on things like social media and our day-to-day lives that we forget to just be and to actually feel and experience our emotions. And music is a great way to actually feel your emotions, especially inspirational music like that piece. Now, I personally like instrumentals like that, but for you, you could have music that inspires you that have lyrics. It could be from an album. It could be from like an Eminem album or something. What music, fills you with inspiration. And there's other ways that you can do this. And in the next slide, I'll be going into more methods on how you can manipulate passion and inspiration and to develop those feelings within you and to be able to create those by using external methods like music. Another place where your passion is located is inside the things that you are naturally drawn to and are curious about. So ask yourself that question. What are you curious about? What are the things that you are interested in? What are the things that you are naturally drawn to? So one thing that I am naturally drawn to is books. Whenever I'm in the town where I live, I like to go in the local bookshop. I like to go in there. I'm just naturally drawn to it. I'm more drawn to that than, let's say, clothes shops I'm more drawn to that than DIY products. I remember this one person from my past who was talking about little things to do with carpentry, so like little pieces of wood, little things like sanding paper, things also like nuts and bolts. They were very curious about those things, and whenever because he worked in a factory, every time he saw them go by and he was having to scan these items, he would be, oh, look at all this kind of cool stuff that I'm seeing. He would be natural, and he was naturally drawn to it because he wanted to be a carpenter. That's an example of someone who is naturally drawn to certain things. So what are you drawn to? Perhaps you might be drawn to vehicles. Perhaps you want to build like an old car or something. What are you naturally drawn to and are curious about? And you'll find that in there somewhere is your passion. The next slide is more examples of methods to, get this feeling of inspiration, to get yourself into an inspired and passionate state. So the quote I have here is from the previous slide, which is, people don't allow themselves to feel these days, in my opinion. I have to have time. I put aside some time where I can feel. And that is sometimes just throughout the day, where I listen to a piece of music that really puts me into a passionate state, that really inspires me, that I really like. So I have to really put myself in the place to feel. I actually have to put time aside to actually experience and feel something. So obviously here we have listening to music that inspires you, which I've already talked about, what music inspires you. That's a way that you can get into this passionate state. Following your curiosity and experimenting, that's something I've also talked about, apart from the experimenting bit. So with these things that you're curious about, these things that you're naturally drawn to, these things that you want to kind of dive into and explore, experiment with those ideas. Because, you might find out you're curious about something and then later discover after you've experimented it with a while that you don't really like it and it's not quite what you thought it was to be, what you thought it was going to be. So that's fine. That's all about coming to understand who you are. So, follow those things, follow the things that you're curious about. And if it doesn't work out, then go on to the next thing that you're curious about. But also a side note to that is, don't just give up on things. Don't give up just because it's not working. Give up on it if you decide that you don't actually really like what it is. So for example, let's say being a carpenter. So you think, oh yeah, I'm really interested in different kinds of wood. I'm really interested in different kinds of nuts and bolts. I'm really interested in nails and sanding paper and stuff like that. And then you go into it and then you discover that actually this is not what I really want. So you might buy a couple of these things and decide that you want to try and make your own set of drawers. And then in the process of doing it, you realize that, hang on, I don't really like this. But losing interest in something and realizing it's not for you is much different than giving up. Because you might be really passionate about something, but you see that it's not working for you, and then you give up just because it's not working. Don't give up on something just because it's not working. Only give up if you find out that you're not actually really that interested, as opposed to, I'm just giving up because it's not working. If you really love something and you're really passionate about it, you will try and find a way to make it work for you if you can. Don't just give up. So the next point that I want to make on this, and the next method, is spend more time doing stuff than theorizing. Obviously, it's good to, think about things before you do them, but spend more time on the actual doing, the actual practical side of it, because that will put you into more of a state of passion. Because if you're really passionate about something, and you start doing it, what you'll find is that more and more passion will occur. So you'll be able to spend hours and hours doing it. For example. Another way to look at it is spend more time on the solution rather than thinking about the problem. That's an example of kind of how to think like this. The next point I want to make is do what you feel inspired to do exactly when you feel it, if you can. So for example, if you get a thought that you feel a lot of passion for and you want to implement it, if you can, try and start working on that immediately. So let's say you're just watching the TV or something and a thought just pops into your head about something that you would really like to do and you're really passionate about. If you can, do it immediately. However, obviously there are some times when you can't work on things immediately. So let's say if you're at work or you're at school and you're in the middle of class or something, then obviously you can't do what you need to do. Because you're doing something else, you're at class, and it'll be really inappropriate for you, or you're at work, to just leave and go and work on this kind of thing. and work on this inspired thought. Which goes into my next point, and that is to write down your ideas and dreams that impact you. So, for example, if you are busy and a good idea comes into your head and you're afraid of losing it, if you can, try and write it down somewhere. Try and write it down on a scrap of paper, or if you've got your phone with you, then write it in a memo on your phone. Another thing to do that I've put here is dreams that impact you. So sometimes you might actually be sleeping and have a dream about a project or something that you want to do, or a passion of yours. It might just come to you in a dream. So you'll probably remember these dreams a lot more, because sometimes we dream, but we don't remember what we've dreamt because the dream wasn't very impactful. So if you have a dream that you really remember, and you remember doing something in that dream that was really important, and that felt really important to you, write it down. Write it down. I kind of wish that I wrote down my dreams more, but when dreams really impact me and they have a long-lasting effect on me, that's when I write them down. Like if I have a really important dream, I write it down. But most dreams I don't write down. I perhaps write down a dream once every few months, because that's usually when I have an inspired dream. So it's not very often that I write down my dreams. Although it is something that I wish I did do more, even with the mundane dreams, because I think dreams are really important to help understand yourself, basically, and help understand the things that you want. Another example, another method that you can do is to take a shower or bath in silence and trust the ideas that pop into your head when you are uninterrupted. So yeah, this is something that I've noticed. Sometimes I have really amazing ideas when I'm in the shower or when I'm in the bath. Have moments where you are in silence, because sometimes, I've done this and I still do this sometimes. Sometimes when I'm having a bath, for example, not so much a shower, but most of the time when I have a bath, I actually listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something. But sometimes I take a bath in silence, and usually in those times I get good ideas popping in. And I think the reason why it happens when you're in the shower or when you're in the bath is because you don't have any distractions. Take advantage of those times, and when you get an inspired idea, an inspired thought, when you get out of the bath, or you could get out of the bath or shower immediately and write it down, but write it down afterwards. So the next slide is how to find your passion again when you lose it, because it does happen. So the quote I wrote here was, remember why you wanted it in the first place, remember what the ideal goal was, remember and recreate the feeling you first felt. Sometimes you can get sidetracked, and this is something that I've definitely done on my YouTube channel, sometimes in articles on my website. Sometimes I get into a rut and I feel a little bit of burnout, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself a lot, and I lose passion for what I'm doing, basically. So in order to reorientate myself, so in order to kind of put myself back on the path, I have to look at the bigger picture, because sometimes I lose sight of the bigger picture. And, you have to kind of remind yourself the reasons as to why you wanted it and the reasons why you were doing it in the first place. When it all boils down to what I want to do and what I'm doing on this channel is serving others in some kind of way. That's the way that I've kind of seen it. One of the greatest people I admire is Dr. Wayne Dyer. He has a quote that he said a lot of times, and that is if you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know what you're meant to do on this planet, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, then find a way to be of service to others. And that's what I decided I wanted to do after I heard him say that. I wanted to find a way to be of service to others, to help other people. Let's look at some other methods that you can do to help you find your passion when you lose it. The first point that I make here is look back on the past projects you have made when you were inspired. So, looking back through art or just things that you've made, things that you've done in an inspired state. And that can help remind you of why you are doing this. It can remind you of your passion. Perhaps it can even fill you up back with that passion that you felt when you first made it. So look back on those things that you've done in a passionate state. Look back on old notes if you have made any. So this is something that I do occasionally. Sometimes I look back on my old journal that I had like last year and the year before that, because I had quite a big journal and it lasted a few years for me. So sometimes I go through that and I can see how much I've grown, what my goals were, the things I was doing, the things I was creating, things like that, looking back on that. And sometimes actually doing that is a good way to see how much you've grown, not just help you reorient yourself back on the passionate path. Another thing that I can do is actually look back on old videos of mine as well, and that helps me like realize how far I've come and how much I've developed as a human being, because I kind of went into this whole coaching thing very naively, which most people probably do whenever they start a big project. They don't really know what they're doing, and I definitely didn't really know what I was doing when I started out. All I knew was that I wanted to help people in some way and be of service to others. But I feel like even the advice I am giving now is a lot better than what it was even a year ago, even 6 months ago. So, you know, being able to see yourself grow is really, really useful, and it helps you see that you are actually making progress, even if it feels like you're not. So it's very good to be able to look back on those old notes that you made or old projects that you've done to help you see how much you've grown and to help put you back on the path. So the next point I've made here is go back to the methods you did to get into an inspired state. So, you know, how have you made yourself inspired in the past? How have you made yourself feel passionate in the past? So obviously that can go back to, you know, the ways that you can get into a passionate state, the way you can manipulate yourself to feel passion, you know, by listening to things like music and stuff. So what have you done to get yourself into an inspired, passionate state before, and then recreate that to help you. And if you've still got nothing, then stop and look at new things you are curious about, because sometimes things just go stale. You just can't recreate that passion you had for it. Like, so for example, perhaps you grow up, perhaps you were really interested in and passionate about model planes, and you thought that that was your passion and that's what your life was supposed to be about, you know, these model planes, and perhaps you wanted to have a shop with model planes in it or something, and then you realize you just don't have that joy for it anymore, even when you know, think about it, and you find yourself more curious about other things rather than the old things. So it's important to not just be aware of what you're passionate about, but to be aware of the things you're no longer passionate about. And you need to, and just because you've done the same thing over and over again doesn't mean that you have to keep on doing it the same way. And what I mean by that is you don't have to stick to it just because you've made a commitment to it. An example of this was when I was doing Twitch. So I used to do streaming, and I did it for about 7 to 8 months, I think. It was about half a year, and I was really passionate about it to begin with, and then I realized I wasn't, and then I didn't do it anymore because I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just couldn't find the passion for it anymore. And what I really wanted to do, instead of playing video games and streaming them on the internet, I just wanted to help people and to bring value to other people in a more informative way than via the means of entertainment. Because that's what streamers do. They entertain people, which is obviously very valuable and very good, right? But for me, it just wasn't giving me the passion. I wanted to give a different kind of value. Don't be afraid to give up on old dreams that have gone stale. But just remember, have I lost passion for this, or am I just giving up? You know, that's a good question to ask yourself. The last slide is some practical exercises you can do and some resources. So here in the blue, I've put find something that helps you get into the feeling of passion and inspiration. So after this video, find some music that moves you, quotes perhaps, daydreaming about the end result you want, a book, an interview with someone you admire and want to be like. So these are some examples of things that can put you into a passionate state. So find some like triggers for you, shall we say, that can help you get into a passionate state. So the next thing you can do in the green here, it says capture your ideas, in brackets, even the bad ones. So here I've wrote, keep a notepad or write memos on your phone to put your ideas when you feel passion, inspiration. Not all of these ideas will work, or you might not like them in the future, but try them out anyway. So if you get passion and inspiration to do something, try it out. And if you decide that you don't like it, well, at least you've learned something. Don't keep on, again, beating a dead horse, because if you're not passionate about it and you know that inside you, then don't keep at it just because you've made a commitment to it. You know, the ideas that come into your mind today, you might not necessarily like tomorrow, but try them out anyway. Just see what happens when you act on those inspired and passionate thoughts. So the next thing to do is which is in the purple here, another thing that you can do is to don't overthink it, okay? So take time to chill. and let ideas flow to you. So having a shower or bath or taking a long walk can help you give you some silent time to let ideas pop in. So after this video, after you've done some of these exercises, why not take a long bath or a long shower or go out for a walk? Don't have any distractions, so don't be listening to anything or anything like that. Just see what happens and see if any ideas pop in. Now, it might not happen today, but it might happen on a different occasion. But allow time for silence so you can have those inspired ideas and those inspired thoughts. Okay, so down here is some resources. So one of these are both books. So Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You might be able to find the audiobook on YouTube or something, or if you've got an Audible membership, this is not sponsored by the way, then you can probably find it on there. Also Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss, which was the book that I said at the beginning where I found that Viktor Frankl quote, which the book looks like this. You can also go to Tim Ferriss's YouTube channel. He does loads of podcasts, and a lot of what's in this book are actually from his podcasts as well, I believe. It's just sort of condensed down into a one book. So this video was about how to find out what your passion is in under 20 minutes. I hope it's helped you. If you would like to get in touch with me personally and you would like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com/shop. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye, guys.